All righty, good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great day and you're full of holiday cheer. Hey, so we're going to spend the next 45 to 55 minutes just kind of walking through some strategies so we can build some momentum in 2025. I am recording this, so I'll be sending out a copy of the recording to you as far as that is concerned, and then content. But if you could, please grab a notebook piece of paper so you can take some notes along the way. We're going to have I'll be sending it out also to all of my one-on-one coaching clients. So have no fear, you'll get a copy of this as well. So we'll kind of work our way through. So I know most of the people that registered for this workshop, but I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Drew DeMaree. I'm the owner of an independent coaching company called the Freedom Companies. We do trainings, we do coaching, and nonprofit events as well, primarily with real estate agents. And I've been 20 years in the business, 10 years in coaching, right? So the reason why we call it Holiday Haze is, again, I'm a realtor for almost over 20 years now. I'm actually in my 20th year. And in between November and New Year's, I think we all, let's just be honest, we all get a little burnt out from the years past, regardless of the economy, regardless of how much success or opportunities we saw in our business this year. We it's an enjoyable time of year to kind of connect with our family. The tricky thing is that if we really look at the timetables between Thanksgiving and the New Year's, let's be honest, that first weekend on January is also probably part of the haze. It's 40 days. And so if we're looking at a real estate business in a 12-month cycle, and we all know real estate's a 60 to 90-day cycle, this unfortunately um, affects our business. And so the goal for this session today is to give us some action points on things for us to get clarity on and for us to be able to honestly have an amazing year at first quarter. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about just a simple conversation about, are we average? Are you average? And so I coach agents from all different brokerages, all different production levels. But the interesting thing is the national average is that an agent sells 6 homes, and based on average numbers and average commissions, they make about $54,000 a year. And hot topic in at least the last 2024 is inflation, right? And the cost of living. And I would bet, or I think you'd agree that $54,000 a year before taxes is not even minimum wage, right? And so I want us to make sure we have clarity on some things that we can do as an industry, as an individual agent, or as a team, or as a brokerage that isn't really hard. It just has to be intentional, okay? So let's talk about how we can kind of go against this average scenario. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to identify your power moves. For me, this is really the primary thing that we all need to work towards. The other things are more logistical, strategic things. But we have to identify our power moves. And when I coach someone at any production level, the first thing I want to tap into is the difference between their aspiration and their motivation, right? And so all of us aspire to do great things, right? We aspire to provide for our family. We aspire to live healthy, successful lives. But the difference, do we have the motivation to do what it takes, right? So obviously you have to choose your heart. And the ultimate question is, what will happen if you fail? So interestingly enough, I'll coach someone. Let's just give a general example. Maybe she's a single mom with 3 kids, right? Her motivation, her gut, her in her belly, and her fire in her gut is, I got to provide a living, to keep the lights on, right? You may not be in that situation. You may have a spouse or partner that contributes to the household income, right? You might have different circumstances. We all do, right? But one thing I would like to say, just in a caring way as a coach, is nobody's coming to save you, right? So you have to do the work. We all individually have to do it. Yes, you can have a coach. Yes, you can have a mentor. You can have a broker that supports you, but no one's going to do this job but you. And so I want you to kind of go into this season of this haze that we're kind of working our way through, is that nobody's coming to save you, right? No one's coming to save me. I have to wake up every day and do the work too, right? And so, especially in this time of the holidays and the season, we're super grateful for what we have. But if we want to thrive and do different things, we got to realize that, right? So I always go back to what we call the purpose chart. And so when I feel like I'm out of alignment, when I feel like I'm honestly resenting my job, or I feel like maybe I'm not, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. There's days where we jump out of bed, we're excited, and there's days that we definitely have, I don't know, hesitation, right? So you love it, the world needs it, you're paid for it, and you are great at it, right? And so I think all of us have to, especially in the real estate space, you love it, just showing houses or just selling houses, that has to go get deeper, right? Because once I know 20 years in the business, once I've hit a certain level of income, once I've sold a certain amount of houses, that love changes, right? The industry evolves, right? So maybe that's an opportunity of maybe you need to flip properties for yourself, buy investment property, hold rental properties, right? Maybe you're doing training and coaching like myself. Maybe you're starting your own brokerage. Maybe you're expanding your team, right? So the love of this evolves. At least that's my experience. And the world, what the world needs, it changes as well, right? And so we've gone through the last year, year and a half of evolving and the NAR settlement and what the world needs. I think we got clarity on it is that we need more transparency and compensation, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of negative things came out of that, but the world needs clarity on what we do and why we do it, the value that we bring. Paid, same thing. Our commissions are always been negotiable, but I just want you to work through, are you providing value? Because lack of value, price is always going to be challenged, right? And then are you great? I think that to me is just sharpening that saw, is making sure you're constantly training, constantly surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. I always want to be in a room filled with people that are smarter than me. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about in your power move is your first domino. And so we're going to talk about strategies to get through the haze of the holidays. But what is the first domino? So first thing I want you to just think about the domino itself. There's been many, many scientific studies, or I don't know if it's scientific or it's engineering, but the first domino falls to the second domino, then goes to the third. What they find is that the next domino can be knocked over 50% greater. So let's say this first domino is 1 inch. Obviously, then you go 50% higher. The second one, 50% higher. Reason why I bring that up is that a lot of times when I coach someone, it's the first thing you just got to start to do, right? So maybe you haven't been making phone calls. Maybe you haven't been reaching out to your database. So we need to find the first domino that's going to get you to do that. And maybe it's 3 conversations a day. It's a small domino. That's a manageable number. And then maybe we go from 3 conversations a day to 5 conversations a day, maybe 5 conversations to 8 conversations, right? Um, all of this is expanding, right? And so one of the things I think that's interesting in our industry is we are surrounded with amazing professionals. We see people on panels, we watch YouTube, and we see these highly successful professionals selling hundreds, if not thousands of houses. And then if you're an agent that's not selling 1,000 houses, it also feels almost overwhelming, right? And so we got to scale it back from the 1,000 houses that person sells all the way down to what's the first thing that you can do to start that domino. Because if you remember that analogy of the 50% greater, it'll pick up speed pretty quickly, right? So maybe it's first conversations 3, maybe it bumps to 5, maybe it bumps to 6. But before you know it, the dominoes are going to start to fall. And so one of the first things I want us to start to think about, especially in the haze of the holidays, is what can you do to not break the chain, right? So maybe it's your morning habit. Maybe it's something as, I say simple, but the goal is to make it easy at first, right? It's small, it's atomic. If you've ever read Atomic Habits, right? Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes early. right? And maybe that's just the first domino. When you wake up 30 minutes early, you get clarity on your day. You can have your cup of coffee or your tea. You can sit in silence. You can meditate, whatever you feel like you need to do. But maybe that's your first domino. So before we're going to conquer phone calls and mail out things and, maximize our database, maybe the first domino is just getting that 30-minute walk in, right? Or planning time. I see so many agents don't even block time for that. So I want you to think about your power move. Your first one needs to be what's that first domino for you, right? And getting control of that schedule, getting control of something that is the first domino that will start to tip over. Okay. I came across this probably 6 years ago now. And it's called the 1,000 a day rule. And if you Google it, there's some really cool YouTube videos about it. And it really gave me clarity. I've always been crazy about my schedule. In college, in corporate world, I lived by my literal paper calendar. I don't know if you guys do that as well. I switched to digital a few years ago, but I've always been kind of crazy about my time. And so this even gave me more clarity. So on average, well, not even on average, there is 1,440 minutes in the day. That's literally everybody, regardless of how much income you make or who you are, we all have the same amount of time in one day, right? 1,440 minutes, approximately 440 we sleep, give or take, depending on your sleep habits, right? So that gives us 1,000 minutes to do what we got to do, right? So the minute that you bounce out of bed and your feet hit the floor to the last second when you bounce back into bed and your head hits your pillow, right? So the question is how is one person more successful when we all have the same amount of time? So the way that when I kind of heard about this 1,000 day rule, and it resonates in my brain every single day, is I connect it with currency, with money, right? So time is either traded or spent, right? So think of it like an ATM machine, like you're depositing money or you're withdrawing money, right? So right now we're going to spend 60 minutes together, right? That's $60, right? So that's an investment in you and I's time so we can grow and learn and expand and implement things into our business. So that's an investment. I'm actually putting money into the ATM right now as I'm speaking, right? Or are we wasting time, right? Are we spending time on things that don't matter, that don't work, that aren't impactful, or for people that honestly aren't giving us the return on that? Now, we all know we have clients that have varying opportunities or challenges that we face, right? But I don't know if you've ever been on a phone call or conversation with someone and you go, man, I can't get that 20 minutes back, right? So one of the things I want you to think about during this transition of your holiday haze is, are you intentional with your $1,000, right? Are you depositing that $1,000 every day, or are you withdrawing it every day? And you know what? It's okay to have both, right? So I personally, let's say you have grandkids and it's the holiday season. You want to spend an hour on the floor hugging and playing with your grandchildren. Maybe that's 60 minutes of your day, right? That's $60 that I believe is an investment of your time. It's not an expense, right? But the other things that are expenses, like driving around and traveling around town, being more strategic with your schedule, right? Where we can kind of kill two birds with one stone. So I want you to start to really analyze your time. We use what we call a time audit. Basically, it's pretty simple. You start at the beginning of the day and you just write every little thing down that you do and you analyze that, right? So how long did it take you to do your hair? How long did it take you to take a shower? How long did it take you to go to your first appointment? How long were you on the phone for the first call, the second call, third call? You'll be surprised when you do a time audit how much time we're spending and not investing. So that's something I want you to consider looking at, especially this time of year, because we're all, quote, in the holiday haze, but those that are reaping the benefit, those are planting and doing the things now. You, like I said, the illustration, you're going to see them show up in the next 60 days, right? So now we're going to go into some tactical strategies, so hacks that really are important and to the actual reaction or the success of your business. So I always, this time of year, I do it. So I want to share that I am following, practicing what I preach. I do what I call a 30-day prospecting challenge. So when things are a little quiet, right? So it's the holiday season, it's a holiday haze, it's a little quieter, right? People are busy shopping, people are traveling. It isn't always the most robust time. I also find this same time period around like summer, right? June, July, same thing, right? So when I feel or see or experience seasonality in my real estate business, when it's quieter versus the busy times, and you know what I mean if you've been in the business for a while, I know I need to double down on my prospecting during the quiet times. And I'm saying quiet in quotes because we all know real estate's not quiet, right? It's always a racket. It's always a rambunctious. It's always the Tasmanian devil. There's always things going on. Yet there is seasonality in it, right? So I want you to kind of what I call the lock-in approach. I joke about this. I don't know if you ever had these in high school. We did. We had like, or middle school, we had like a lock-in, right? And they would lock us in the gym. I don't think they really locked us in, but we would have pajamas and we'd have fun, right? But the reason why I use the word lock-in is because it's super focused. You're very intentional. I actually have real estate brokerages doing lock-ins right now, right? So what does that look like in a brokerage? So basically they take all their agents and say, hey, we're going to lock in for 2 hours. So come here from 6 to 8 p.m. and we're going to do one thing, right? And so maybe it's phone calls, right? And so they're going to, for 2 hours, call as many humans as a group together, and they're going to track it, and they're going to make it fun, and they're going to make it a challenge, right? They're going to do that. Maybe it's text messages. Who can send out the most text messages and get the most responses? And maybe that's a lock-in, right? I have another group of prospects that are doing handwritten notes, and they've got the stamps, they got all kinds of cards, they got some examples of what they're going to write, and they just lock in, and their goal is to knock out a lot of handwritten notes. So this is something that when you're in the quieter sense of the business, maybe a lock-in is something you can do. And if you're not a part of a brokerage or a team that does that, self accountability, you can lock in yourself, right? Lock in for 2 hours and do some heavy tasks. So before I get too far into this, I don't want to ever assume anything, right? And so there's people that watch this that are just getting in the business or that have been in the business 25, 30 years, right? I sometimes think, or I've experienced it myself, that we get fuzzy with the definition of prospecting versus marketing. And so I will tell you that I see a lot of marketing that looks amazing. Social media, your guys are killing it, right? There's so many things in marketing that is going so well. What I've seen is because the market was so hot, we've slacked on the prospecting. And the prospecting has to be the higher percentage of our time, 1,000 minutes, right? So yes, I do have to get my schedule, do my all my social media. Yes, I have to do all my emails and my direct mail and all the marketing that I need to do. But if I'm looking at my calendar, my prospecting time should be probably double what my marketing time is. So just be careful of that because prospecting is nearly free and it's a direct touch and a direct ask. And I know there's people that I don't like to be pushy. I get that. But we are in the sales business. And so if we're building relationships, then when we are at that point of an ask, because the first one's not an ask, the second touch maybe isn't an ask, but you're going to get there because you're going to be consistent, right? So just want you to be aware of that. So in the season of the holiday haze, I challenge you to a 30-day touch, right? And touches mean different things, right? They could be direct messages, text messages, face-to-face, or calls, right? A touch is exactly what that means, right? It's just a reach out, right? And let's be honest, a touch doesn't mean they respond, right? But 100 touches in 30 days. And we're like, okay, in the midst of all the wrapping paper and all the parties we're going to, how do we do that, right? Well, the first thing I want you to realize is that we want to keep everything simple. And so I use a stair-step goal setting approach. I always have with myself and anybody I coach. I call this the 5 to the 5th power, right? So I want us to take your Monday through Friday, and I want you to group it by people, right? So maybe Monday you're going to reach out to your college friends, or maybe you're a member of a sorority, right? So I want to be very specific. I don't want it to say SOI or Sphere. I want it to be very specific. What are the 5 people on Monday that I can reach out to? What are the 5 people Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You get it, right? Obviously, multiply that together, and that's going to get you 100 conversations in a month. Then they're going to reply. It's like a snowball or a reaction, right? They're going to reply and say, hey, yeah, uh, how have you been? What's up? How can I help you? Right. And then it'll lead to conversations. And we know that the difference between a touch and a conversation is they've actually replied to us, right? So the first thing I want you to start to think about is don't have to go in aggressive, right? So if you look on the left of the screen, forward conversation first. Forward, write this down, stands for family, occupation, recreation, or deliver value. So I'm going to start with a text message that says, hey, what is your family doing for the holidays? That's F for forward, right? For family. Once they reply to that text message, I'm going to continue authentically having a relationship conversation. And then I will do an ask as I go through, right? And so I gave you an ask example on your screen. My real estate coach is challenging me to find 2 new people in the next 30 days that are planning to buy or sell in 2025. If you know any family, friends, or coworkers looking for real estate advice, I'd love to connect with them, right? We still need to do the ask, right? And maybe you're like, oh, I still haven't talked to them frequently enough to go there yet, Drew. I'm like, okay. So maybe you have the forward conversation, you end with the ask, and then you do it 48 hours. You're just saying, hey, thanks for touching base with me the other day. Maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe you've got to wait 48 hours. Maybe you do the forward conversation first. So today you do a forward conversation with me. Maybe 2 days later, you say, hey, it was really great having that conversation with you on Friday or Thursday. And by the way, I have a real estate goal. Bam. Right. So you got to understand the push and pull. So I call it push and pull, like when you need to push, meaning the ask, or when you need to pull back, right? It's kind of like a dance or a cadence. And I think listen to your gut on that, but you have to ask. You can't always just, hey, how's the kids? Hey, what's the trip you've been on? Right? Things like that. So if you're already hitting 5 touches a day, I want you to kind of think through this. I do everything in like stages, right? Stair step prospecting. So if I'm meeting an agent for the first time and I'm like, hey, what do you typically do for lead gen? And they're like, oh, I really don't do a lot. I fell off, the wagon because I've been really super busy. So we're going to start with 5 touches. And then once we're consistent, and consistent means 5 consecutive days for 4 weeks. So for 1 month, I want this agent to do 5 touches per day, Monday through Friday, right? So that's going to be 100 touches. Once I have them consistently doing that, then we're going to go up a couple stairs, right? Now we're going to go to the next group, which is 10 touches a day. And that we're going to do that for a month. And then we're going to really start to track the difference between the touches and the conversations. Because at the end of the day, I could send out 25 text messages a day, but if nobody's talking back to me, nobody's responding to me, that's obviously not going to convert any leads, right? So the reason why I put this in here is because I want I don't know where you are, right? And who is watching this video, where you are in your endurance of prospecting. If you're used to having 10 conversations a day, the key is just consistency, right? But if you're not, maybe scale back and then step up as you go, okay? Think of it just like that domino example. The first domino is being consistent with 5 touches a day. Just get those 5 text messages out, or direct message, or conversations on the phone done. Get them done 30, 45 minutes in the day, right? Kind of like light weights at the gym. And then as you build up your muscle, fill up your endurance, you're going to add some more weights and lift more, okay? All right, the third thing I want us to do, now is the time to work on some handwritten notes. You have a little bit more downtime, put on some holiday music, do what you got to do, get in your PJs, but personal handwritten notes, right? And I know holiday cards are a thing. I understand that, but that's not what I'm talking about, right? It is a conversation inside that note, right? So if you're doing holiday cards, great. If you're doing New Year's cards, great. Absolutely do those. That's a great touch. That's a marketing approach, and I'm absolutely talking about that. What I'm talking about is more of a prospecting approach to handwritten notes, right? So 100 pieces of mail in 30 days, right? And no trying to get around it, right? So I'm not going to type out a letter and sign my name to it. I'm not going to actually even do labels, address labels. I'm going to do pen to paper, write a handwritten note, write the address, put the return label on there, put the stamp on there. Yes, is a lot of work. Yes, absolutely. But again, I do this in these moments in my seasonality of my business when I know it's slower and I can do this. Now, am I going to do this in the heat of the market? Maybe not, right? Because handwritten notes do take time. But data shows us open rates of personal handwritten notes 90 to 99%. Open rates of generic marketing is 10 to 30%, right? And you and I have received this type of mail, right? I go through my mail every single time over the trash can. And it's pretty simple. I'm either going to read it now and open it now and read it. I'm going to save it for later, probably the bills, just to be honest. And then the trash, the junk mail, I'm literally just dropping it in the trash can right then and there, right? We don't want to be a part of that trash percentage, right? And so when I receive a handwritten letter, it looks like a wedding invitation. It looks like something personal. It looks like something important, right? Maybe something I'm invited to or an event, right? So I don't want you to discount this and I don't want you to skip this because I've made more money on a handwritten note than any social media campaign could ever pay, right? And so I want you to think through that and come up with your 100 touch points. So this is an example of what I write in mine. This is actually a sample of my handwritten note. I'll send it to you. It's a flat card. It doesn't have a little flap to it. I order them through Canva. They're like less than $1 a piece. You can brand it to yourself. You can add a cute logo or something like that. And this is kind of an example of what I write, right? I hope you're doing well. Want to take a moment. Thank you for your support. It means so much to me. If you know anyone thinking about buying or selling in 2025, I'd be honored to if you could share their name with them, my name with them. I'll be sure to take good care of them, right? And I add this daggone stamps, right? So I remember years and years ago, I would write all these notes. I would do exactly what I'm coaching you to do, and yet they'd sit on my desk. So just a little quick fact, USPS.com, they will mail you stamps for free. No, not free stamps. It's just the shipping is free. So I actually go into USPS.com, you go under supplies, and I have just a reoccurring roll of stamps delivered to my house every month. It's reoccurring. Yes, stamps are 72 cents. So yes, it's $72, but it's on auto payment, 72 bucks. Not exactly loving that, but it is what it is, the cost of doing business. And it comes in my mailbox every month. I get a roll of stamps, 100 of them. And my job as a business professional is to make those stamps go away, is to get those stamps out with a piece of mail every single month. And so, again, having that accountability connected to that. Okay. Also, some fun other ideas. I do this and I coach people do this all the time. Birthday cards, home anniversary cards. As old as I am, as old as we all are getting, there's nothing beats still an old school birthday card. And I was actually just doing my Facebook birthdays. You probably do this too, where it's their birthday and you say happy birthday to them on their Facebook or Instagram wall. That's great, but hundreds of people are doing that. What I want to do is stand out. You also want it branded to my business, right? And so this is example. I'll be sending this out for you guys to change it up. Put your fun little quote on there. Put your dog. Change out the image. But what would it look like if you just mailed out birthday cards? Maybe that's your one domino. Maybe that's just the one thing you're going to do consistently. And so the 25th of the month, I pull up all the birthdays that I know and have and addresses I have, and I mail those out for the following month. So 25th, I'm already starting them early because of the holiday Christmas season. So all my January birthday people will get them in the mail usually in that first week of January, even if so I don't miss them. Happy home anniversary. This is another example of one. We've just got to be consistent, and now is the time to get there. Okay. Which leads us to our systems. And so this is probably the most complicated of all the hacks that I talked about today, but it's the most important. So I honestly was contemplating starting with this, but I wanted to lead with some other actionable things for you. But I want you to start to really think about what systems you have in your business. And so I call them the 4 departments of your business, your real estate business. And I want you to walk through them. I will tell you the number one thing that real estate agents, teams, or brokerages hire me as a coach for is to help them build systems. Because we're amazing salespeople, but most of us are not amazing at building a system, organizing a system to where we can do it consistently. And so when business is good, we're thriving. And when business is slow, we're like, oh crap, we don't have, we haven't been consistent with whatever it is, marketing or prospecting, right? So I want you to remember that we all have good habits and we all have bad habits. So think of this as we call this the success mountain. First of all, it's not a straight line. Success is not a straight line, right? There's peaks, there's valleys, there's plateaus, there's ceilings. It's a whole thing, right? But the difference between this, I want you to realize, is that the system is the journey, right? And so the more that we can clump these habits or these systems together, the more you're going to be able to scale your business and be successful and save energy and save time. So a system saves yourself time, energy, and money, right? And so I want us to be real clear on what systems we need in our business. So this is kind of the last part of what we're going to talk about today, because I think it's important to get clarity on this. Now, during the holiday haze, is the time to start to really dissect your systems and see what holes you have. So we're going to work through that. So I want to illustrate it in a different way first. You kind of see it in a different perspective. So let's say we're going into the new year, 2025, and Coach Drew wants to get more physically fit and healthy, right? So really, I'm thinking about like, how would Drew accomplish this goal, right? Well, it's just like this. It's 4 different things I have to focus on: my nutrition, my fitness. I'm going to track that nutrition and track my fitness to make sure I'm consistent and I'm accountable, and that I'm hitting the measurements or the metrics that I need based on my goal. And then I also actually have to carve out time to do it, right? My time is busy. I got to make sure I carve out time and dedicate time to either learning about the nutrition or prepping my food or going to the gym or spending time in doing the sport or activity to do that, right? So these are the 4 departments. So these are the 4 areas that if I was a person that wanted to improve my health, my physical health, this is what I would need to do. Well, I'm going to show you, it's a mirror. It's the same thing that it goes in our business as a real estate agent. We have 4 departments in real estate. We have a prospecting department. We have a marketing department. We have our results or tracking department, right? Just like the fitness example. And we also have the systems or the time department, right? And because remember, the systems save us time. The results of the tracking shows us if what we're doing is working, right? Because we can be prospecting all day and marketing all day and spending all this money. If we're not tracking the results, we're not going to actually know what we need to do to tweak our plan. All right. So very quickly, I'm not going to read all these to you, but prospecting, I want to get clarity on that, right? So we talked about the difference between a touch and a conversation, right? If you're at the point where you haven't really done any prospecting, just start out the gate with doing some touches, right? First domino, 5 touches a day. 5 touches a day. What are those 5 touches? I don't know. You work through what you think they need to be. Is it a lunch? Is it a text message? Is it a direct message? What is that touch, right? Then you're going to lead to conversations because they're inevitably going to talk to you back to you. They're going to reply. Also networking, things like that, right? You can read the rest of them, but these are really important that if you're building a system around prospecting, this stuff needs to be tracked. And if I am your coach, if I am your mentor, if I'm your broker, these are things that I will ask you. How many touches did you do this week? How many conversations resulted from it? What networking did you attend this week or this month, right? How many past client CMAs have you done, right? How many coffee appointments did you do? And so if we're trying to get out of the haze, we're trying to build momentum for 2025, this stuff matters. It's one domino at a time, okay? Marketing, same thing. You can read these. Email marketing, social media posts, direct mail. I am a big fan of direct mail because it's not dead. High data shows sellers like direct mail. The average age of a seller has actually increased, right? So the average seller, the age of a seller is, I think it was 54, I think was what the age average, right? So are they on social media? Absolutely, right? Buyers are more on social media. That's a younger demographic. But if I'm going after sellers, I would probably put a little bit more time and effort on direct mail. make it sticky, meaning make it stand out, make it personal, things like that. And you can see those. Micro events, much smaller, right? So I see people doing pie parties this time of year. I see people do, drop-offs of wine or poinsettias, all amazing things. A micro event is a small group of people getting together to do something. So maybe you're going to take 6 people and you're going to go bowling. I had another person that they did this like a wreath making event, and it was a fun festive holiday thing. It's not for everybody. It's for your best of your best humans interactions, shoulder to shoulder, breaking bread with them, or having great conversations with them. I have a couple coaching clients, they're going to do a micro event in February, like a Galentine's event. So they're going to have some ladies over and they're going to do, some fun things with that, different things like that. Okay. And then results, track, 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 track. You can't track your progress. You don't know your progress unless you track your results, right? Just like the fitness example, if we're measuring things or weight or, biceps or whatever you want to measure in a fitness situation, it's showing you progress. And funny thing in real estate is for some reason we don't track our numbers as consistently as we should. And I find it curious because how do you know what's good or bad? How do you know if it's the best year, your best month if you haven't tracked things, right? And again, it's a transparency on accountability. I'm going to see your results and I'm going to compare it to what you've done in the past to show your progress, progression, right? And then the last thing is systems. We talked about that, but really looking through all of those things. What's your calendar look like? What are you doing? I put electronic import of your database merge. I know clients are living in your phone and your email, but they're not in your database. So what I do is I coach people twice a year. Hey, it's time to download your phone into an Excel spreadsheet. All iPhones, all Androids can do it, and clean it up and then put it in your database. Guarantee you got probably 10 or 15 people that are not in your database, if not more. You're going to see one here that's highlighted in red. And I wanted to go a little bit deeper on this last system. I'm going to tell you, it's almost, I probably out of 5 consultations I do a day or a week, like new consultations with clients, 4 out of the 5 don't have a large enough database. So I want you to not be in that position. So example, right now, especially during the holidays, do some math with me. Take out a piece of paper. Actually, I'm going to send you the spreadsheet so you can use it on this tracking form. But number one, do you even have a database? I hate to say it, but probably out of 5 agents I talked to, 3 of them don't even have one, which is not great. Not great at all. And the 2 that have them don't have large enough databases to hit their goals, right? So the size of your database is going to depend on your income goal and what we call your conversion rate. There's 2 conversion rates. We call it an opportunity rate. 6.37 is the average right now. That comes from studies that are done by different brokerages. So that's right now based on what the market's doing. That's literally as of 2024. So that really, it could get better based on your sphere of influence and who you're connected with, but that's kind of an average. Your closed conversion rate, right? So that's how many actually deals that fall apart. And you're like, hey, well, I closed 95% of them. None of my deals blow up. My response would be is maybe you're not having enough deals, right? So I would keep it at 75. So very quickly, I'm going to go to the bottom screen that's in the box just to give you a real life example. So if I want to make $150,000 gross, right? Before taxes, before splits, before any of that, I'm going to take the 150. I'm going to divide it by my average commission. In this example, I use $9,000. So I've got to do, rounding up, I've got to do 17 deals. Okay. So if I'm going to make $150,000 before pay anybody, I've got to literally sell 17 transactions, buy or sell, right? Opportunity cost is divided by that. So I'm going to take the 17 divided by 6.37. And I have to have 266 contacts in my database. But that's still not it, right? Because we know there's fallout. We know that there's credit scores. We know that people lose their job. We know that things happen in our business and that not every lead converts. Some of them are not in our control, which is the condition, and some of it is in our control, which is objections, right? I don't want to pay that, or I don't want to live in that neighborhood, right? Working through how to overcome those objections is something too, right? But let's say this 266 is your contacts. I'm going to put a 75% rate on that, right? That means I need to have 354 people in my database. I'm going to say this 350 people is kind of the benchmark that I look for in everybody's database, regardless of your goal. If you don't have 350 people in your database, it needs to grow. Now, do you dump people in from your neighborhood or a cheerleading squad or a farm neighborhood? No. 354 people need to be people that you know in some capacity at some level, and they know you, right? So I do also, when I see larger databases of 1,000 or more, you guys have dumped internet leads in there, you've dumped farms in there, it pollutes or dilutes the size of your database of these conversions. I'm not saying you shouldn't have them in there, but I want you to be able to tag them or separate them. How many people do you know in your database? 350, 354 is a general number. So maybe that's the first thing you got to work on. Maybe that's your first domino is I got to get more people in my database that I know that like me, trust me, and know that I'm a real estate agent. Maybe that's your first domino, right? Well, that leads us to the end. I told you it'd be 45, 50 minutes. I do want you to alert you that we're going to go deeper into a few topics in January. I'm doing like a bundled training program. So there's session one is how to use Google Suite a little bit at a higher level. I know some people are pretty good at it, but everywhere from Gmail to using Google Docs to Google Forms, and makes your life easier. You can create some systems inside your business. I'm going to show you some of the tools that I coach people to use on a regular basis. We're going to dive deeper into mailing your database, how we're going to sort your database, how you're going to decide what to mail, and I'm going to show you some marketing pieces that have been effective for some of our coaching clients. Session three is those micro events and those other events. We're going to talk about the budgets. We're going to talk about some fun examples, some ways to show you some examples of inviting people. Because with events, it's not about the event. It's before, it's the invite, and it's the after, it's the follow-up. And then number four is those infamous pop buys. So I know a lot of people use what we call that pop buy system, which is in another coaching program. I find it interesting that a lot of people use it. It's like this drop by approach, not a pop by approach, where we're not actually prospecting. We just drop it on the door and dash out of there without having a conversation. So we're just going to talk through how we can be more purposeful when we're delivering some items of value or some fun gifts to our past clients. So I'll send that to you in the recording email that I'm going to send you later on today. It'll have the links to those. If you want to go individual sessions, go for it. If you want to do all four sessions, and they're what we call a digital experience. So I already have them pre-recorded. I already have everything set up for you. So January 1st, you'll get all of it. You'll be at your pace. You can watch all four when you want to over the holiday break. Whatever you need to do, it's for use to keep, and all the tools and resources you can customize. Okay. And just a reminder that we do have a lot of one-on-one coaching program options out there. We have our new Flex program, very cost-effective, $295 a month. And then we can add and subtract what you may need. If you have an assistant, or maybe you need a longer session, right? Things like that. Okay. So scan that if you want to chat with me about coaching one-on-one. And then at the end of the day, I just want you to thrive in 2025. The holiday haze is real. We have 40 days. We're kind of in this, I don't know, blackout zone where from Thanksgiving to after the New Year's. And I hope that this gives you some inspiration, give you some tactical ways to go about your business. So thanks so much for joining me, and have an amazing day. And I'll send all this to you later on this afternoon. Talk to you later.